Nowadays, the opening stage of a chess game is becoming more important, either because of the appearance of chess engines or because almost everything has been studied. Everyone is passionate about learning a new line. However, among the entire universe of openings, there are certain lines that are repeated often and often, and you can see them in both Grandmaster and beginners games. Are you interested in knowing what these lines are? Okay, I am FIDE Master Viktor Neustroyev, and today I'm going to show you top 5 modern chess openings. Okay, number 1. Sicilian Defense Sveshnikov variation. This complicated variation was in fact forgotten until Magnus Carlsen used it in his world champion match against Fabiano Caruana. It's not rare, but after that many chess players began to investigate this opening further. Let me show you. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6 attacking the pawn, knight c3, and e5. A move that could have been considered a big mistake in the past because it weakens the d5 square, but currently is completely playable because of good dynamic compensation for black. Knight db5 attacking the d6. That's why d6. Bishop g5. Now, actually, knight d5, this is the move that was played by Magnus Carlsen against Fabiano Caruana. For example, then, knight d5, e takes d5, knight e7, c4, knight goes to g6 to release the bishop, queen a4, threatening a fork, bishop d7, queen moves out of the pin, queen b8, protecting on d6, h4, h5, bishop a3, a6, knight retreats, a5, maybe to chase the queen, queen goes back, a4, queen d1, and after bishop b7, bishop e7, black improves their pieces and gets a compensation with their pieces activity. So if you want, you can play like Magnus Carlsen. However, nowadays bishop g5 is still more popular. a6, knight goes there, b5, threatening with a b4 fork, and in this position you have two good options. One of them is to take and then play knight d5. This is what I recommend and I play myself. The other one is to play knight d5 immediately. After bishop e7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, c3, and bishop g5. Looks like white has a big advantage with that knight in the center. However, black has a bishop pair, and they will definitely try to open the position on the king side. Actually, the results of Grandmasters games show that this position is playable for both colors. As for me, I prefer it for white. The second one, Ruy Lopez Berlin Defense. If I need to bet on which opening will stay on top for future years, even decades, I would probably pick the Ruy Lopez. And this is the opening that has been played since chess was created and is still popular around the world. However, black investigated something there and they created the Berlin Defense, which is nowadays considered maybe the strongest response to Ruy Lopez. I'll show you. e4, e5, knight f3, knight e6, bishop b5. The classical Ruy Lopez is a6, and we can't capture on c6 because even if we take on e5, they're able to get the pawn back with queen d4. So that's why here we just retreat. They play knight f6, we castle, and so on. Then the intention is to play c3, d4 in future. Or maybe c3, d3 and play a slow Ruy Lopez game. But if black plays knight f6, this is Berlin Defense. What moves do we have in this position? The most common is castle. However, nowadays most grandmasters prefer playing d3, anti-Berlin system, and then c3, castle, knight bd2, rook e1, knight goes to f1, then to g3 or maybe to e3. This is a slow plan that can be applied in a close position. However, castle is the main line of Berlin defense. Knight takes e4, d4, trying to open the position. That was not a pawn sacrifice, so white is able to get the pawn back. Also, some players play rook e1 in this position, but d4 is considered to be stronger. Knight d6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and pawn captures on e5, chasing the knight. Knight goes f5, queen d8, king d8. This endgame has been played in a large number of games, which shows that black, despite their double pawns on the c file and the king that already moved and also becomes the object of the attack after rook d1, still is able to get good chances for a draw. Number 3. Sicilian defense, Najdorf variation, especially popular for aggressive players who want to play to win even with black pieces. This opening has been used by Magnus Carlsen, Daniil Dubov, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and other strong players. And of course, we shouldn't forget about Garry Kasparov, who played it a lot and contributed to this opening. Okay, I'll show you. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and a6, with the intention to secure the b5 square. There are a lot of lines. For example, I sometimes play this move, knight b3, bishop e3 as well. Bishop e2 is considered to be a classical Najdorf variation. Instead, bishop c4 is also playable on top grandmasters level. However, here I would like to play bishop g5. Maybe this is the most aggressive way to play against Najdorf variation, and this is how, for example, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave plays. However, usually he plays this position with black pieces. e6, f4, fighting for the center, queen b6, queen d2, queen takes b2, rook b1, and this line is known as a poisoned pawn variation, where white has enough compensation for the pawn on b2. Instead, if you want, you can play bishop e3 in this position, or f3. I don't think there is a big difference. Bishop e6, f3, knight bd7, queen d2, bishop e7, and g4, with the intention to castle queenside and initiate a kingside attack. But in practice, if black plays properly, there is no kingside attack, and you have to play positionally and even mainly play on the queen side. After you play d5 and after exchange capture on d5 with the pawn, you should try to occupy the c6 square with your knight. The fourth opening that I would like to show you is Catalan Opening, which is called Unbreakable Opening to some people. The Catalan is a popular opening no matter in what level you are, either because of the odds are quite good for white, or also because Fabiano Caruana played it against Magnus Carlsen. This is an interesting opening for strong players as well, especially for those who prefer playing d4 but don't like Queen's Gambit or some Nimza Indian strategies. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3. So not knight c3, only knight, the king's knight moves first, knight f6, and then instead of doing knight c3 or bishop g5, g3 and fiancetta. Bishop e7. Well, bishop b4 is a possible option, but bishop d2, and then they have to retreat. Because if they trade, we get rid of our bad bishop. Bishop e7, bishop g2, castle, castle. And here black has a lot of moves, and I even created 2 courses devoted to Catalan Opening, how to play it with white pieces. So I did it together with Grandmaster Dmitry Bocharov. We analyzed a lot of moves and how white can get playable in slightly better positions. However, the more solid move in this position is c6. So this pawn formation is actually considered to be quite strong. The only problem is the bishop left on c8. So c6, queen c2. Another idea is to play b3. For example, b3, knight bd7, bishop b2, b6, knight bd2, bishop b7, queen c2 then. However, I believe this position is approximately equal. That's why I would suggest playing queen c2. Then your plan is to do maybe this, and finally play e4. In some variations e4, in some other variations, if they take on c4, you can capture with your knight. So the idea of this opening is that white tries to pressure through the main diagonal with their light squared bishop. And in practice, it's difficult for black to defend always being under the pressure. And the last one, number 5, is Grunfeld Defense. Thanks to chess engines, openings that were considered critical errors in the past now are playable, because it gives an important dynamic advantage that can compensate, for example, the loss of certain central squares. That happened with Sveshnikov variation, and same thing happens with Grunfeld. So, for example, if you want to play for a win with black pieces, then you can play Sveshnikov variation of Sicilian defense against e4 and Grunfeld defense against d4. Okay, I'll show you. d4, knight f6, c4, g6. Starts like King's Indian defense, but in this position, when white is ready to play e4, black plays d5. This is how they fight for the center. Of course, white takes to get rid of black pawn in the center. Black takes. Now e4. White totally dominates in the center, but black is about to attack the center with bishop g7 and c5. So they want to undermine, and sometimes they can do it successfully. What to play then? Here bishop c4 is considered to be the best move. One of the most popular, at least. c5, knight e2, knight e6, bishop e3, castle, castle, and the position is playable. For both, white tries to activate their pieces, allocate the rooks on the open files, and maintain the pressure in the center. Black tries to undermine the center and force one of these two pawns to move and occupy the square. For example, if this pawn moves, then e5 can be occupied with black pieces. If e pawn moves, then d5 can be occupied with one of black pieces. Also, knight a5 and c4 is a part of their plan very often. If not bishop c4, if we just play knight f3, it's still possible. c5, bishop e3, queen a5 with the intention to take, to pin the pawn and to take on d4, forcing them to take with a minor piece. But then queen d2, knight c6, rook c1. Protecting the pawn and potentially moving it to the open file. C takes d4, c takes d4, queen takes queen, then king takes on d2, not to blunder on d4, black castles. So this position is considered approximately equal and definitely playable for both players.
In this video I've shown top 5 modern chess openings that you can apply in your games. However, you need to study them deeper first. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and share it with your friends chess players. If you know any other modern openings or have any other questions about the ones that I explained in this video, feel free to share them into the comment section below this video. Learning opening is a part and parcel of any chess player training program. Would you like to get deeper and learn some opening traps to be able to win a chess game quickly? If yes, watch the video on the screen next, devoted to 7 best chess opening traps. And I will see you there in a moment.